session on Hofstede's national cultures. So after years of analysing IBM data, Gert Hofstede in 1980 released his Hofstede's national cultures or cultural dimensions theory. And essentially that is looking at this IBM data that he found that business cultures will differ in different countries. He based that on originally 4 dimensions and has since added 2 dimensions, so it's now based on 6 dimensions. And those 6 dimensions are each scored out of 100. 100 is a high number, 0 is the lowest number. The first is power distance. Power distance sometimes has the code of PDI. And that essentially, power distance is the extent to which society will accept that power can be distributed unequally. So how much they accept that power can be distributed unequally. If it's a low number, then it suits a decentralised structure. And if it's a high number, then it means that society is more willing to accept a centralised structure. More details on centralised structures, decentralised structures, the card's up there. Now the second one is individualism or collectivism. Which scale are they on? Are they more on the I or the we scale? The I being individual and the we being collectivism. The code for this is IDV, and you'll see this if you have to look at a table and analyse the data. So this looks at the extent to which individuals should look after themselves as opposed to society. And it's more about themselves versus being team players. If the score is low, it suggests team loyalty exists. It suggests that you're more on the collectivist side and that maybe non-financial methods would make sense for you. It also suggests that you're going to be more resistant to change. You're probably going to be slower to have change when you have to think about your loyalty. A high number would suggest that you have limited responsibility beyond yourself and just your family. And maybe here financial rewards would work. A good example of this is the US that has an extremely high score for IDV. Now 3 is uncertainty and avoidance, or UAI as the code is. And that's essentially your tolerance for ambiguity, your tolerance for not knowing exactly where you stand. If you have a low number, that means you're extremely fine with it. If there's ambiguity, you are very accepting of that. So if change happens, you're kind of cool with that, you're happy with that. And it also suits more informal communication if you have a low number because you're happy with that ambiguity. A high number would suggest that you're not accepting of that at all. And a high number for UAI means that you probably need to have really strict, rigid rules and regulations in place, and it would suit the need to have a defined organisational structure. Also, it might need that employees have a defined career path, so you need to think about performance reviews, etc. The next thing is 4, which is masculinity, which is the code MAS. And the idea is are you more masculine or are you more feminine? Masculine means the need for more assertiveness and the need for money. They're more important in those types of societies. Versus a feminine society is that you have more concern for others and relationships. If you have a low number here, it suggests you are more feminine, and if you have a high number here, it suggests you are more masculine. Number 5 is long-term orientation. The code for this is LTO. Now LTO is essentially how your society deals with issues now and in the future. Do you look really back into the past, look back at your long-term traditions for how you'll solve it, or are you more pragmatic, more sensible about how you're going to approach the problem? So low number means that your traditions, you want to maintain those traditions that you've used in the past, which really does suggest more resistance to change. You could definitely loop in Cotter there. If it's a higher number, it means you're more pragmatic, more sensible about your decision making, and you're willing to disregard long-term traditions if you're just doing the right thing. The next thing is indulgence, which is the code IVR, and that's essentially the ability for you to control your desires and your impulses. If you have a low number, then it indicates that you're more on the restraint angle, and therefore you have less need for leisure. We've seen that in countries such as India, who have a very low IV number. High numbers would be indicating that you're more you can't control your desires so much, it's more about indulgence, and you have more need for leisure. So you could definitely think about here with overtime, because if you have more need for leisure, it might be more difficult for overtime. If you have less need for leisure, then overtime may be easier to implement into your business. So I hope that helps with Hofstede's national cultures. See you at the next sesh.